The morning sun had barely climbed above the skyline when one unexpected moment shattered 12 years of carefully buried grief. Billionaire CEO Vivian Ashcroft stepped out of her black luxury sedan outside the newly opened Children's Community Center her company had funded, expecting another routine charity event, another carefully planned speech, another day of pretending that success could fill the emptiness left by the love she had lost. But as photographers gathered and reporters called her name, her eyes froze on a simple silver necklace hanging around the neck of a tired-looking single father standing quietly in the back of the crowd with his young daughter. The necklace was unmistakable. It was the very same handmade compass pendant that had belonged to her late husband, Ethan. The necklace everyone believed had disappeared forever on the day he died during a devastating mountain rescue mission over a decade ago. Her heartbeat stopped. Her carefully controlled expression disappeared. In that single breathtaking instant, the impossible had become real. Before this incredible story continues, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who still believes kindness can change lives, and subscribe to Dad Talks and Stories if you believe that second chances sometimes arrive in the most unexpected ways. Your support allows us to keep sharing emotional stories that remind us all to never lose hope. Vivian had built one of the largest technology companies in the country after Ethan's death. Newspapers called her unstoppable, fearless, and brilliant. Investors admired her discipline while employees respected her determination. Yet no amount of wealth had ever healed the wound inside her heart. Ethan had been more than her husband. He had been her best friend, her greatest supporter, and the one person who constantly reminded her that success meant nothing if it wasn't used to help others. After authorities recovered only part of the wreckage from the mountain accident, everyone accepted that some personal belongings had simply disappeared forever beneath landslides and harsh weather. The silver compass necklace had been one of them. Ethan wore it every single day because it had belonged to his grandfather, a humble carpenter who taught him that the heart always knows the right direction if kindness leads the way. The single father standing in the crowd had no idea why the billionaire CEO suddenly stared at him with tears filling her eyes. His name was Rowan Mercer, a construction worker struggling to raise his 8-year-old daughter Nora after losing his wife to a long illness 3 years earlier. Every morning before sunrise he worked at construction sites, and every afternoon he rushed home to help Nora with schoolwork before preparing dinner. Their apartment was tiny, their savings almost gone, and every bill felt heavier than the last. Yet despite the endless hardships, Rowan never stopped smiling for his daughter because he believed children deserved hope even when adults carried impossible burdens. Vivian quietly cancelled her prepared speech and asked her assistants to find the father wearing the necklace. Cameras continued flashing as she approached him, but she barely noticed. Up close, she could clearly see the tiny scratch near the edge of the compass pendant, exactly where Ethan had accidentally dropped it years before during a camping trip. There was no mistake. This was his necklace. Rowan looked embarrassed as everyone turned to watch them. He explained that the necklace had never belonged to him originally. 12 years earlier, while working as a volunteer with his uncle after a powerful storm in the mountains, they had discovered an injured rescue volunteer trapped beneath fallen trees far away from the official search area. The man had been weak, barely conscious, and desperately trying to protect a frightened little boy separated from his family during the disaster. Before emergency helicopters finally arrived, the exhausted volunteer had removed the necklace and placed it into Rowan's hands, asking him to keep helping people whenever life became difficult. Rowan had searched for the man's family for months but never found any records because the rescue operation had been overwhelmed by hundreds of emergencies. The necklace became a reminder that kindness should never end with one person. Vivian listened in complete silence. Every detail sounded impossible until Rowan mentioned the frightened little boy rescued beside the volunteer. Ethan had often written in his journal that if he ever faced danger, saving a child would always come before saving himself. Those words had once seemed like simple ideals. Now they suddenly felt painfully real. Tears slowly rolled down Vivian's face as years of unanswered questions began finding unexpected answers. Wanting to know more, Vivian visited Rowan's modest apartment a few days later. She expected to see someone hoping for money after meeting one of the richest women in the country. Instead, she found peeling paint on the walls, carefully repaired furniture, homemade drawings covering the refrigerator, and a father who had quietly sacrificed everything so his daughter could keep smiling. Rowan never asked for financial help. He simply wanted Nora to grow up believing that good people still existed. Watching Rowan patiently braid his daughter's hair before school reminded Vivian of Ethan's gentle heart. She realized the necklace had not been lost. It had continued carrying Ethan's greatest lesson from one family to another, quietly inspiring kindness across 12 difficult years. For the first time since becoming a widow, she felt something replacing grief. It wasn't happiness yet, but it was peace beginning to grow. Instead of offering Rowan a donation, Vivian offered him something far more meaningful. She invited him to oversee community construction projects funded by her foundation, building affordable homes, schools, playgrounds, and family shelters across struggling neighborhoods. Rowan accepted not because of the salary, but because the work reflected the promise he had silently carried ever since receiving the necklace. Day after day, he helped build places where children could feel safe and families could begin again. Months passed, and the foundation expanded faster than anyone expected. Employees noticed that Vivian smiled more often. Nora became like family to many people at the company, filling office hallways with laughter that had long disappeared. Reporters praised the billionaire's growing charitable work, never realizing the real reason behind her transformation had been a single silver necklace and one exhausted father who never stopped choosing kindness over bitterness. As the first anniversary of the community center approached, Vivian organized a ceremony honoring everyday heroes whose quiet compassion changed lives without expecting recognition. Standing before hundreds of families under the bright afternoon sun, she spoke not about profits or business achievements, but about ordinary people who carried extraordinary courage. She explained that true wealth was measured not by money, but by the lives we lived when no one is watching. If this story has touched your heart so far, please like this video, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to Dad Talks and Stories. Your support helps these meaningful stories reach people who may need hope today more than ever. Special request, before we reach the end, please comment with the words, "Kindness always finds its way." We'd love to know where you're watching from, and your message may inspire someone else reading the comments today. At the end of the ceremony, Vivian gently removed the compass necklace from its display case and placed it back into Rowan's hands. She explained that although it had once belonged to Ethan, its journey had never truly ended. The necklace had found exactly the person who needed its message most. Rowan had honored its meaning every single day without ever knowing whose memory he carried. Keeping it was not taking something away from Ethan. It was continuing everything Ethan had believed in. As the afternoon sunlight reflected from the small silver compass, Vivian finally understood that love never disappears when a life ends. It simply continues through acts of compassion passed from one heart to another. Ethan's legacy had survived not inside a museum, not inside a fortune, but inside an ordinary single father whose quiet goodness changed countless lives. Sometimes the greatest miracles are not impossible events, but simple choices made every day by ordinary people who refuse to let kindness disappear. And perhaps that is the most beautiful inheritance anyone could ever leave behind.